I've worked with a lot of single zone amp and speaker installs. I haven't done a ton of daisy chain multiple zones, so this was a good learning experience for me. Of course, just like I tell you all the time in this business, you can't possibly know everything there is to know and do all the broad range of service calls that we do. A lot of this is learn as you go and figure it out. So in this case, I did a lot of figuring out. I'll show you the amp here in a little bit as well. There's a couple of things that I learned while setting up the amp. Again, I've set up several amps, but this one, different brand, slightly different setup. Most of the time on the back of your amps, you're gonna have pretty clearly defined Phoenix plugs and labels to identify everything. You're gonna have to identify which way is your input, where your output goes. You're gonna have to know your positive and negatives and your ground or earth. The majority of the time, you're just gonna have a cable that you're gonna insert the conductors into the Phoenix plug. In this case, they actually sent out a really interesting little RCA adapter, which I had never seen. That avoids a lot of issues with stripping cable and making sure that it fits correctly. What's fun is you can undo the screws on the bottom just like you would for a raw cable, and this will actually slide out. In this case, this is occupying 5 of the 6 pins. If you end up taking this off, you want to make sure that you put it back on the correct pins, or else your system won't work. This was just installed here, and then we just have simple RCA plugs. Whoever sold the system, whoever designed the system, should be able to give you a lot of information about the system to help you. So each one of these represents a different zone. These volume controls are pretty simple. There is a speaker side and then there is an amp side. So from your amp, you're going to go to your first volume control. You're going to go into the amp side of the Phoenix plug. Then you're going to take a jumper into the same amp spot. So you're going to have the cable from the amp and a cable from the second volume control going into the amp connection. So you're gonna have 2 cables going in there. You're gonna have the cable coming from that speaker zone, and it's gonna go to the speaker side. You're gonna bring that daisy chain from here to here. It's gonna go on the amp side. You're gonna do another amp cable jumper from here to here, and keep jumpering, but the speakers are always isolated on their own part of the plug. That allows the volume controls to work independently in each zone. This is my final one in the chain. As you can see, I've got the speaker isolated on its own, then I've got the daisy chain and I marked my cables. Volume control 6, which is the one going over to here. Volume control 4 is the one going here, and this is number 5. So I've got both of those coming into the same spot, and you have to be really careful to make sure that you get as much of the jacket in this as possible, because if you leave that cable exposed, it's going to touch between these 2 Phoenix plug connectors and short out, and of course your system's not going to work. Now, anytime you're doing work further down the chain, you always want to disconnect your amp from the previous spot so that if you create a short, you're not going to hurt your amp. This is 16 gauge wiring. They use heavier gauge wiring to handle a bigger system. The wiring is so thick that you really can't get both wires in the Phoenix plug, so I trim it down just slightly, and it also smooths it out to make it easier to get in the Phoenix plug. And you only have to do it on the volume control side. Since this is the last one in the chain, there's only going to be 1 cable going into the amp side and 1 cable going to the speaker side, because this last one is the last one to do the daisy chain, so it is the last one to have 2 cables on it. Speaker positive, speaker negative. That's my volume control. That is my 6th zone. Insert that there, and we've got our screw terminals on top. Now we have our amp positive and negative. So we're going to go red, black. See how little of the wiring is showing outside of that Phoenix plug? We want to keep that inside as much as possible. It just prevents shorts. Now we should be able to put our volume controls on. We'll put this one on first. This plug will plug in the wrong way. I don't know why it's not keyed better, and it's also misleading because the correct way, the labels are upside down. So in more than one way, it is confusing for this particular brand, and other brands may be different. But so now we've got this one in place. We'll attach that to the wall in a minute. But we're going to plug this one in and see if we have audio. Now we're going to turn it up and see if we can hear it. I have to do it short so we don't have copyright problems with the video. There's our volume controls. And here's our completed install. Let's get you out in the field making money. See you in the next video.